The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now, your hosts, Christy Scales, Aisha Morrison, Nicole Hutchison, and Jess Navarez.
Welcome to our Tuesday edition of Girls Talk, Boys Talk here at the beautiful SWBC podcast studios at the Star in Frisco. We are brought to you by Jigsaw Dating, by the way. Jess Navarez, Aisha Morrison, Nicole Hutchinson, and Christy Scales here with us today. Ladies, how are we feeling now that it's been 48 hours to officially absorb everything San Francisco? And kind of just breathe on it. We're getting ready to turn the page here on the podcast. This will be the last day we really talk about it in depth. I know Aisha is screaming to be done with this conversation. She's blinking because that means help me.
The face says it all.
Blink twice if you need help. There we go. Oh, there it is. She blinked 3 times. Oh man. So we're gonna get more into that discussion today. Aisha went back and watched some film. The ladies here got to talk to some of the rookie class today. I'll let you guys talk about that event as well, and we'll just get into more discussion that we didn't get into today. Let's start with the event that happened today and the importance of that, ladies. Take the floor.
World Mental Health Day couldn't have come at a better time after that San Francisco game. But it's awesome because the Rookie Club, presented by Blockchain, they do so many events throughout the year. And this year's rookie class, and Nicole, you got to see them in action today, just so outstanding. And so we had an event here at the Star where Bessie Coleman Middle School drove up from Cedar Hill, which is just south of Dallas, and we were on the outdoor practice field. And Trisha from Cowboys Fit, one of our yoga instructors at Cowboys Fit, led a 30-minute yoga session for all the kids, and the Rookie Club was out there taking part in that. And then Character Playbook, which is something that our community relations for the Cowboys and the NFL have focused on for many years. Our friends at Everfi help with that. And so to see those Cowboys rookies, the kids were broken up into groups of 4, and so we had 4 Cowboys rookies with each of those groups, and they talked about some really important topics.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the topic of the day, mental health awareness, and like I mentioned in my story, that'll be airing on Special Edition this week.
Put the plug in, girl.
Hey, guys, make sure to tune in. But no, it's just Dak Prescott really started to lead the way with this whole mental health awareness around the NFL, kind of leading the charge a couple of years ago. And so just to see so many guys really thinking about that just being so important. And you see a lot of professional athletes really taking care of their mental health. I talked to Deuce today, I talked to Luke, and just asked them, like, why is it so important to take care of your mental health? And they were like, man, we do so much, like, it's just good to just, take a deep breath. Deuce said that, for him to kind of like ease up and like kind of take a break from football, sometimes he likes to read books. And then Luke said he likes to, his religion is really important to him. He also kind of mentioned to me that music is a thing as well for him to kind of give him a peace of mind. So I love how like a lot of athletes use different avenues to kind of take care of their mental health. So it was a really cool event.
Yeah,
today.
and the kids got to take the yoga mats home with them, and for a lot of them, it's the first time they'd had real yoga instruction from a real professional instructor, and then Raising Cane's provided lunch, and Dairy Max the smoothies,
they had smoothies
and so
too,
it was really an awesome day, and it's so nice of that Rookie Club. Tuesdays are the players' day off, and yet they're here on a Tuesday morning spending time with those middle school kids who just had a wonderful day. So it was a day well spent for sure.
Yeah, we got to see some of the girls like stroll too. Some of the
we had the dance group
team.
And the cheer team.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, in regard to the mental health side of things, definitely, I can say as a veteran, I've even had to up my just my responsibility to myself to check in and to make sure I'm taking care of myself. So even though we're talking about the players, everyone out there, this day is for you too. Know that you're needed, that people love you, that you're cared about, and just keep that in mind. And it's okay to ask for help, absolutely. And that's Dak's slogan, obviously, as well. So that's something that I carry and I take very seriously as well.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned military background. Another event this afternoon, the Langford family, James Langford and his wife Maya and their 2 young boys came up, and it was an event for Sleep Number. And so they knew that they were coming for a VIP tour of the Star. So I'm taking them on a tour of the Star, but they don't know that Tony Pollard is waiting for them in the back.
That's why he was.
So this is So Tony, Tony. So then we kind of finished the tour, and then they win some tickets to a game, our Salute to Service game from Sleep Number, and lots of
cool.
goodies and jerseys and stuff. And so their little boys are out there running around on the field with Tony handing them the ball and stuff like that. So just a wonderful day. And so the Cowboys and Sleep Number and Tony Pollard with our own early salute to service with the Langford family that came up from Houston.
Awesome. And I feel like for those guys, especially after the heaviness from this weekend, it's a good way to start to turn the page,
decompress,
refresh, and just remind themselves, their why, and I know a lot of the guys you talk to in the locker room talk about when you start getting into conversation with them about how they take their impact very serious. And someone that I talk to a lot about this is Michael Gallup, and saying, I want to be an example for young kids that look up at me at the stadium and say, hey, I want to do that one day. He said, if I can do that for one kid in that entire stadium, I did something right in my job that day. So for the rookies to get a taste of, you're officially a Dallas Cowboy, this is the weight that you hold, and especially after that loss, I think it's a really good way for them to turn the page. And then it explains. I walked in, Tony Pollard's in the lobby. I was like, what are you doing out here?
I sure was. I was like, man, I'm here in his Crocs. He chilling.
Yeah,
he
the Crocs.
Yeah, he was sporting those Crocs in sport mode.
And you should have seen James's face. It was so cool. It was a great
awesome.
Surprise. So
that is awesome. Well,
Not the Crocs being in sports mode. We can't just glaze over that. I'm sorry.
look,
That's funny.
no shade. I love Crocs.
I did too.
I've
I
never
love
had a
Crocs.
pair of Crocs, guys.
We're going to
fun
change
fact.
that. I'm going to buy you your first
she's
pair
slacking.
of Crocs.
I've just never thought about wearing Crocs.
All right,
they're just-
we got to change
They're
that.
convenient and comfortable.
They're
Put it like that.
so
I don't got one
She's
on.
not wearing Crocs right now. Tony Pollard was wearing Crocs upstairs. All right. Anyways,
Let's
before
go
we
back.
get too
My
off
bad.
topic,
Sorry.
let's transition from there. Let's use Tony Pollard as a good starting point with the Dallas Cowboys offense. Let's get back into some conversation post-game, post-loss to the San Francisco 49ers. Let's talk about it. The run game in this game, obviously not as much of a factor as they would have liked it to be. 57 total yards. Tony Pollard had 8 touches on the ball for 29 yards. He averaged 3.6 yards per carry. Rico Dowdle, he had 5 attempts for 15 yards, averaging 3 yards per carry there. His longest run was 8 yards. Let's talk about why this run game wasn't established. Let's start there, and then we'll work our way around. Aisha, when you went back and you watched this game 4 times, ladies and gents, that's how
tired.
dedicated
4
she is to this
It
podcast.
takes time.
Wow.
It takes
4
time.
times.
Okay.
4. I couldn't even watch it once. 4. What did you notice about the lack of run game? Why was it not able to get established early on? And going forward, how can they fix that to get that rhythm going a little bit quicker?
Well, a couple of things. When the offense deferred, deferred and they allowed, they decided to go out there and let the defense play first. I really thought that the offense expected things to kind of go in their favor with the defense being out there, and everything from there. I think Brian Schottenheimer mentioned that they never found a rhythm.
Yep.
But part of the reason why they never found a rhythm is because I felt like they went away from the run extremely quickly. Mm-hmm. And I also, too, just looking at TP and looking at Rico, I personally thought that Rico was really, when you play a defense that's that physical and is that downhill, you got to counter that. And I felt as though Rico could have countered some of that a little bit more. Also, too, some of the things we talked about on this show that we felt like could work up against this 49ers team, motion, screens. We only saw 1 in that game, and it was successful. That type of stuff we didn't really see in this game. And so it was just, to me, it was very discombobulated from the start offensively, and going away from the run game as early as they did. I don't think it played into the 49ers' hands with how they like to play defense. Would have really liked to see Tony Pollard and Rico get more involved, and maybe not just running up the middle, maybe not just doing those things, but doing some things, attacking the edges and taking it to those guys. I was disappointed in it. If I'm not mistaken, they ran the ball like 2-3 times in the first half alone. Holy heck. And we looked at the time of possession also too. Schottenheimer mentioned that's a reason why usage was kind of scattered, but even so, you run the ball to sustain drives and to play off the play action, and there was just none of that yesterday, well, Sunday at this point. So that's, to me, what I saw in the run game.
I would agree with that. I mean, I feel like they just didn't trust it either. I guess when you're getting punched in the mouth like that early on, and then you have to still trust the game plan. You've got to still try to establish that run, and I feel like that's where the success came from in the first half of the season, the first couple of games. And yeah, I'm just going with you. I think I would have liked them to get a lot of those guys involved, like Rico and Tony. Maybe a little bit of Deuce and Hunter. Maybe kind of rotate them in.
Maybe some
yeah, I mean, you can't go away from the game plan that early.
Yeah, but then in the second half, when the score's starting to get away from you, then you're going to have to air it out some more. So falling behind the way they did early, but especially in the second half when the game was starting to really get away from them, and as Jess says, you got to go for the pass. One thing that Mike said Monday afternoon that kind of pricked my ears up a little bit was he was saying, because he was asked about, hey, you had your starting 5 offensive linemen back and yet you're still not really able to run, and he didn't use this phrase, but time on task. It is important for these guys to work together. And so he said that moving forward that he expects Tyron and Tyler on the left side of the offensive line being together as left tackle and left guard to have those combo blocks working better together, right? But again, that's kind of a time on task thing, and they had really only had a couple of practices together. So that's something that we can look forward to moving on. But you're right, I would have loved to see more screen passes. We saw some great screen passes, but unfortunately it was mostly McCaffrey and the 49ers.
No, and I think as far as not using Deuce or Hunter, that might be some things that they're trying to use more in the red zone. The Cowboys didn't make it to the red zone to be able to show that off, right? And we talked about before this game how Mike McCarthy hasn't had to show his full hand yet at his play calling. You haven't really seen what those special packages can be for Deuce or Hunter really yet, because one, they're still trying to establish what's going on in the red zone, who the red zone guy is. They don't have that rushing threat in the red zone like they used to with Zeke, so establishing that is still something that's in the works. But yeah, overall, Christy, to your point about the offensive line, I wanted to mention this tweet that John Owning tweeted earlier about Tyler Smith, and I think it's very important to note. Tyler Smith is currently PFF's highest graded run blocker among inside O-linemen, 91.9. He is also the only player to have grades above 80 for both zone and gap runs. So kudos to Tyler Smith there. I know Aisha
really
is all about that, but I think that's a second-year jump that we don't talk enough about just anywhere. I think the amount of work that Tyler Smith has done in the year that he has been here, his rookie year to now, that second-year jump is important, and he's leaping. He's not just jumping, he is leaping.
Well, remember, he got thrown in at left tackle his rookie year. He goes through all the offseason at guard, and then Tyron Smith gets hurt right at the end of training camp, and, hey, you're in the starting lineup as we expected. Oh, but you're on the blind side at left tackle instead of left guard. So, man, but now to just leave him at left guard and just, oh my gosh, Schottenheimer, I think it was actually the previous week, said he's just going to be a stud in this league for years to come.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off the fact that how good Tyler is playing, there were times in this game where there were lanes open that TP took a different angle or he took a different lane, and so also too those are things that you look at on tape and you say, okay, how do we improve from there? How can we go forward from there? Because this offensive line, to your point, is still trying to, find some cohesiveness, really looking for them to, continue to improve in the passing game as well, because there were plenty of times, sometimes that Dak was under fire, some pressure coming from the edges. Really need those guys to pick up some of those blitzes and be physical as well. So but the run scheme, I think there were opportunities there this game, and they didn't take them, but I also would have liked for them to take other avenues to run the ball if running the way they were running wasn't working.
And that's a perfect transition to the passing game, ladies. Let's open up that conversation for a little bit, because, again, the passing game was kind of forced at that point, Christy, like you had mentioned. after the run was not established. In receiving yards, let's see, there was 161 total. CeeDee Lamb had 5 targets. He got the ball 4 times there, 49 yards, averaging 12.3 yards per carry. And then Tony Pollard actually ranked second in receiving for the Cowboys in this game. Same amount of targets and receptions as CeeDee for 35 yards there. Jake Ferguson, 3 receptions, 28 yards. Overall, let's get into the CeeDee Lamb conversation, because I feel like that's a big topic of conversation right now, of not getting him the ball enough. Nicole, when we were in the press conference yesterday with Mike McCarthy, he was asked about this, and he said nobody wants CeeDee to have the ball more than me.
Yeah.
How do you get him the ball more in these games? Because when you look at the totals right now, you look at the receiving totals so far in the last 5 games, CeeDee's in the lead. He has the most targets, the most receptions. He has 358 yards, but 13 of those receptions came in week 2.
Yep.
So it's just not being distributed enough throughout games. How do you fix that?
It's easy. You simply get that run game going to open up that passing game. I mean, there's no reason why. And his exact words were, if he isn't pissed off about not getting the ball, I'm pissed off that he's not pissed off about us not getting him the ball. And so I think they want to try to find more ways to get him the ball, but now it's like you have to just establish that run game in order to create opportunities in the passing game. It's just as simple as that.
I was really struck by what seems like the most basic question yesterday. I think it was Todd Archer of ESPN.com that asked it of Mike McCarthy, what is your offensive identity? Mm-hmm. And Mike talked about, and who do you want to be, on offense? And Mike talked about knowing, he said this team is about defense, so we play to our defense. It's the strength of our team. So we can't give the ball away. We want to possess the ball and have long drives and limit the amount of time that our defense has to be on the field. And it's something that, Jason Garrett wanted to do the same thing. All teams want to do that. 49ers did it against the Cowboys with those long drives and things like that. But just thought it was really interesting where the offensive coach and the offensive play caller, who's also the head coach, comes out and says, we're going to play to our defense.
Yeah, I don't like
so,
that.
Yeah, you don't like that?
I mean, I like it, but at the same time, you got to have a counter for if your defense ain't got it that day.
Yep,
that's fair.
Which is what happened very early in that game, is where they went down and scored, and then what is your plan after that? And for me, in regard to the CeeDee Lamb thing, it's just like, number one, the guys on the offensive side of the ball, they have to finish. And it's not just finishing the play. It's finishing the route, rubbing when you're supposed to, completing the play. And I also felt like there's a lot of spacing stuff going on. It was a lot of 2 receivers in 1 space and stuff like that, where it's like, hey, we got to figure out, they got to get on the same page offensively, because it does look like there's some confusion going on there as well. And you mentioned the run game opening up the pass. Heck yeah, it will open up the pass, especially when you're not passing out a shotgun all the time. I mean, do some things under center, do some of the play action things. I personally felt like there was not enough schematic stuff to get your guys open. I think Shoddy and McCarthy, they mentioned that the Niners played more man than what they normally do. They did. Yeah. They are typically a zone team. They'll sprinkle in some man, but they're typically a zone team. They played the Cowboys straight up yesterday, pressed them at the line of scrimmage, and there wasn't a counter. That's the that was my problem, is that there wasn't a consistent counter to what this defense came out and did to you that was different than what you planned on. But then also, too, these receivers have to play through that contact. They have to figure out how to fight through that adversity when things don't go their way. And so it's a mixture. There's conversation to be had all across the line with the receiving game. But, I mean, that was one of the biggest things, is fighting through the contact, having a counter, and figuring out other ways to get your guys open when they need to be.
But then when they are open, you have Dak that's throwing into double coverage. Like, you have to make better decisions as a quarterback. And that's no shade to Dak, but, like, you have to make better decisions if you have CeeDee. Like, CeeDee was wide open on maybe
there were times,
plays,
absolutely.
And so it's like, at that point, you just have to make better decisions. So
Let's get into that conversation after this next break. Let's talk about Dak Prescott, maybe the play calling, what the issues are that we can pick out of the game. We'll get into some special teams. I know Nicole got to talk to Brian Anger yesterday, so we'll get into that. And then, of course, we're going to talk defense. Stick with us. This is Girls Talk Boys Talk presented by Jigsaw, and we'll be right back.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Back to Girls Talk Boys Talk presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to talk more Dak Prescott discussion as well as play calling, but first, the most action-packed motorsports experience in the world returns to Arlington. Head to AT&T Stadium this Saturday, October 14th for Monster Jam. Tickets are available now at SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing provider of AT&T Stadium. Well, I've never been to Monster Jam, but it sounds
It
fun.
sounds
It's
lit.
really cool.
No, it
Sounds like
sounds
It's really
Never
cool.
been. Yeah.
It's big monster trucks.
giant hearing giant engines.
It's
Sound very excited.
Yeah, a lot
Terrifying.
of families go.
Please
You got
don't
the
do that
kids.
again. That
Yeah.
scared me. Oh my gosh.
It's really cool.
All right. Well, someone's fired up over here.
Yeah, that's the coffee. My bad, y'all.
I'm going to take this over here. Okay. Let's continue our conversation. Nicole brought up Dak Prescott not making the best decisions during this game. Aisha, you were talking about how you didn't see the field very well. Christy, you were on the sidelines of the game. What did you think of Dak's play? What did you notice? Maybe a difference from the first half to the second, quarterly? I mean, what did you notice from how he was playing during the game?
Well, when the game was getting away in the second half and then kind of having to force it in there, so that's not an excuse.
Right.
It's just facts are facts. Yeah, that's how it is. I would say that in not getting the ball to CD or some of the other guys, only 26 pass attempts. You would think that it would be higher, especially when you're falling behind and needing to play catch up. And so CD was tied with Michael Gallup in terms of the most targets in this game with 5. Tony Pollard was also targeted with 5. And so and then Cooper Rush had a couple of attempts there late in the fourth quarter. But and then you look at Brock Purdy's stat line, and he only had 24 attempts and like a 144 rating. But what did they connect on that the Cowboys didn't? The big plays, right? Those catalytic, those long plays. And so we talked yesterday about how there were some shots down the field in this game, particularly early. A couple that didn't connect with Michael Gallup, or a couple to Brandon Cooks, one of them that was the interception later. So they were trying to get it, but San Francisco connected on theirs, and Dak and the Cowboys didn't on their own.
And how do you fix that? What's the solution for this? Because here's the thing. We just talked about how CeeDee's not getting the ball enough. We've been talking about how Brandon Cooks isn't getting the ball enough. Earlier, a few weeks ago, we were talking about how Michael Gallup's not getting the ball enough. So it seems like a ball distribution issue game to game. And given that could change with the game plan, right? You're going to see games where some guys get the ball more than others. But when it's your playmaker, your starting receiver, and CeeDee Lamb, how do you get him more open? What did you notice from the film?
I mean, as far as getting him more open, I think I meant it when I said
There were some times.
Yeah, he was open sometimes. We going back to when Nicole said earlier about the quarterback. Quarterback got to see the field better also too.
Yeah,
he got to be patient. I felt like, to your point, Christy, they did take some shots, but with what purpose? This defense is not stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you setting something up? But with the lack of run game, it's hard to set up anything deep downfield. And then also too, if you're passing deep, you're passing out a shotgun every single time. You're playing. You take when you do that, when you do so many plays out of shotgun, you take away the ambiguity of what you're gonna do if you are going to pass the ball off or hand the ball off. They were so much more successful handing off the ball out of center and stuff in this game. I would like to see some more of that. But as far as getting him open, hey man, listen. Some days your guy ain't got it. I was surprised how tight Oliver played CeeDee Lamb because he's been had in previous games. But they came up, they played press man, and they were winning at the line of scrimmage. Their secondary. So an OC got to say, all right, man, they ain't got it. Let me figure that out. So I was looking for, again, the counter, but also, too, your quarterback did miss opportunities on this field when these guys were open. And it just felt like from there, it kind of shrunk. Like, when you miss those, especially against a defense like this, if there's somebody slip and fall, you better take it to the house. You better take advantage of that because they tackle well and they have opportunity. They don't have a lot of opportunities. Also would have liked to see more of Jake Ferguson because when you go look back at that tape, he was winning that matchup with Fred Warner often, and that is very difficult to do. And so when you talk about ball distribution, it's not even just about the wide receivers. Sure. It's about the tight ends as well. And Dak missed Schoonmaker early in that game. The beginning of that game, he overshot him. You mentioned it, Nicole. We got to be on the money. Yep. That could have changed things as well. So it's the QB in the field, but also being able to say, hey, we ain't got it today. Let me do things to scheme my guys open so they're not just looking like they're stuck in mud at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, just 4 targets to tight ends this weekend.
It
hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Oliver. He's their nickelback for San Francisco. I thought he was one of the unsung heroes of that game.
And here's the thing. I think when you're talking about the Cowboys transforming to a more West Coast system, you're not going to see as much tight end usage in the pass game as much, but it doesn't mean you don't see it at all.
You should, though.
You should still see it, but in the red zone, we haven't had the opportunity to see it, and that's where it's the most needed right now. You didn't even have the chance to see what the red zone plan was for the Cowboys this week. Let's be honest, because I think if you're going to get them involved, you need a guy to fill the Dalton Schultz shoes in the red zone. You need a guy to fill the Zeke shoes, but you have a group of very capable tight ends in this game. Jake Ferguson can get you that yak yardage that you need in the red zone, that you need to get downfield in games like this, but just wasn't utilized. And so 4 targets, 2 tight ends overall, who was Jake Ferguson, Sean McEwen because he was elevated from the practice squad, and then Luke Schoonmaker. It's not acceptable as the play calling. So I think there's a lot of blame that you could give offensively here that needs to get better. And like Christy mentioned yesterday, Mike McCarthy said that today is another day to go over everything, get the emotions out of the game, and then they're going to turn the page starting tomorrow. So excited to turn the page. Let's turn the page to special teams for a second. I want to go transition what?
Oh, nothing. I'm just listening to you.
I'm just listening to you. See how she's looking at me?
I'm sorry.
Are we beefing today?
No, I was listening.
No, I think she was really listening.
I was.
Are we beefing?
I had to hyper
Christy's
focus.
the only one here just like staring at me like normal.
Nah, I was fine.
Okay. Well, I love you anyways.
Yeah,
okay. Oh, Jazz is staring at me. Great. Okay. Well, let's transition to special teams because here's the thing. Special teams often overlooked as a unit that does so much, but it's just so underappreciated. And we talk about it all the time here on this podcast, but let's talk about it because losing CJ Goodwin potentially for an extended period of time, it's and Kevontae Turpin potentially. We don't know exactly what those injury extents are right now. We don't know yet, but let's say that both of them are out for extended periods of time. It's not good. It's not good for your special teams unit, and it's just it makes everybody work a little bit harder in ways that they were already kind of struggling before. Nicole, you got to sit down with Brian Anger yesterday, an unspoken hero of this team, just a veteran leader who's such a quiet leader, but such a vital part of the special teams unit. I know he's been vital in helping Brandon Aubrey adjust, and he's just a great locker room guy overall. We talk about it, Christy and I do all the time. What did you get to learn from Brian yesterday after the game, and some key points that you got from him from Cowboys Hour yesterday?
Well, one funny thing, he likes to fish. That's funny. But no, he talked about CJ Goodwin and how that loss is going to be really huge for them. And I know Brad actually mentioned to him that his quote was about CJ, that someone's going to realize one day that he could probably be an all-pro player, just based off how good he is.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but no, talking with Brian, he basically had said that, this guy went from playing basketball at like Bethany College, I believe, a smaller school, and then he just all of a sudden picked up football, ran a 4.29 and a 40. And he's like, I mean, you have to miss a guy like that, especially who's produced so much for us on special teams. But hey, we've got Jalen Tolbert, so I think that he can step up. He has shown that he can step up, like in the Patriots game, pinning them inside the 10. So, I mean, they have full faith in Fossil, of course, as special teams coordinator, and they got faith in Jalen Tolbert. So I know CJ Goodwin's gonna be missed.
What you think, Kristen?
Yeah, so the way that they addressed it in the game on Sunday, because CJ got hurt early in the first quarter, went back out there for one more play, and then basically missed the rest of the game. So Tolbert was at one gunner, and then they inserted Noah Igbenogany as the other gunner in place of CJ. And I think that Jalen Tolbert, to your point, Nicole, has proven himself just in the first month of the season as a really good force in coverage at gunner. And so, maybe the special teams coordinators for the other team might shift a little more focus to Jalen moving forward, because CJ is the guy that you really kind of have to plan for. So he's not just the leader, the veteran guy, and the veteran presence, but really your most productive special teams guy. But the other thing is with Kevontae Turpin, not having him, what they did Sunday for the remainder of the second quarter and then for the second half, Deuce Vaughn took over on punt returns and Rico Dowdle on kickoff returns. Well, here's the thing. Those guys are normally blocking for Kevontae. So when they are taking over as the returners, then not only have you had to replace CJ, but you've had to replace Kevontae and CJ with blocking. So you've had to make two moves there. And so, the special teams guys are mainly backups anyway. You have a few starters in there, like Jake Ferguson is a key guy, for example. When it's field goals and extra points, certainly your starting offensive linemen are out there to help block. But it is a real domino effect. And so they were really, especially the second half of that game, working on the fly. It was almost like a preseason game in terms of all hands on deck and trying to make all of these personnel changes as the game moved along. But just from a personal standpoint and having a good relationship with CJ for the past several years, my heart hurts for him because he really is a key guy. And Brad's right. He should have been in the Pro Bowl at least twice, really, over the past 4 or 5 years that he's past 4 or 5 seasons. But the Turpin thing, I know that Mike McCarthy said he's hopeful that he might be able to practice and maybe even play on Monday. We really won't know until they have their first full practice this week, which will be on Thursday. Extra day going into the Monday game. But man, I don't know. I'm hopeful that Turpin will be able to play, but man, the dominoes are really going to fall if he's not able to.
I also think it's interesting too to see how they replace him in the game. So you have Deuce Vaughn and then you have Rico Dowdle, who were both kind of taking reps at one point during the game.
But also at wide receiver for Turpin and with that package. Right. So would Jalen Brooks be your fifth receiver? Probably Brooks is your fifth receiver. Brooks was active when Brandon Cooks was not available for game 2 or game 3 with the knee injury. And so Brooks would probably be active, and he can. Obviously, if you're the 5th or 6th wide receiver, you're playing special teams.
Right.
So he could help be another person out there and help on coverage and blocking and things like that. But, I guess the positive was the Brandon Aubrey with his 50-yard kick. That was still solid. So.
We love that. We love Brandon Aubrey's 50-yard kicks on this podcast and all over Cowboys Nation. Let's take our next break. When we come back, we're going to continue this special teams conversation just a little bit. A couple more points there, as well as the Cowboys defense, what Aisha saw on film, what we heard from Dan Quinn yesterday, and a couple little nuggets that we can throw out. And we have a question to answer from someone on Twitter that I want to end the conversation with. So we'll get to all of that after this break. This is Girls Talk Boys Talk. Stick with us, and we will be right back.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Welcome back to our final segment of Girls Talk Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We're getting into a little more post-game discussion, but first, head to the Pro Shop at the Northeast Mall in Arlington, Texas on Saturday, October 15th between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. for Cowboys collections on tour. See rare team archives, customized headwear, grab a gift with purchase, and enter a chance to win a giveaway. Stay tuned for more tour stops coming throughout the season. Sorry, guys, I had to sneeze. I'm holding in a sneeze here. Anyways, let's get into a little bit more of special teams, because here's the thing. I think when it comes to, we're just talking about Brandon Aubrey. He is your top scorer on this team right now.
And that's not necessarily a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
Because you don't want to settle for threes. You want your kickers to have a lot of ones for extra points, not a bunch of threes for field goals because you've been stalling in the red zone.
Let's go through this. He has 14 field goals and then 10 extra point kicks there. 52 points for the season so far. And that's a lot of points for your kicker in only 5 games. I would just like to point that out. It's only been 5 games, and those are his stats. We praise Brandon Aubrey's leg so much, but it's going to need a break at some point. Give the man a break.
Let's stick to extra points
Let's stick to
moving
extra
forward.
points and, just give the man a break. It's a long season ahead. But I love Brandon Aubrey's story, and I love what you've been able to see, because the conversation, if you go back to week 1 a little bit, the conversation was not, Brandon Aubrey is going to be carrying this team on his back to score points during games. It was, is he even the kicker? Is he the starting kicker? Remember preseason? Everyone was questioning, is he the guy? Do you go and get another kicker? And I'm so proud of what he's been able to do during his time here. And a large part of that he credits to guys like Brian Anger, Trent Seg, your long snapper there as well. So we're going back to the ripple effect of CJ Goodwin here. There are veterans within this unit, but when you lose a guy like CJ Goodwin, who, by the way, when you saw that blocked kick a couple weeks ago, kind of spearheaded that during the game, made the call to say, hey, we got this look at practice. The morning before, in the ballroom at the hotel, the guys were practicing the same thing, and then it transpired into the game because CJ Goodwin was the one running that operation behind Bones Fossil. So again, it may not be a ripple effect that you see automatically from special teams, but it could be a ripple effect of what you don't see.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily good, because blocked kicks, muffed punts that they return, things of that nature, right? Things that you don't see that could add more of a threat to this Cowboys team overall. So wanted to throw that out there. All right, defense, ladies. Let's get to our last segment here. Aisha, I see you doodling over there.
Oh, yeah.
I see you doodling. She's underlining the important thing she wants to talk about. The thing about Aisha's notes is, it's funny because I've known her for a year now. We've been doing this podcast. I know what that says. I think if anybody just looks at it, nobody would know what it says.
It's chaotic, yeah.
It's so fun to watch, but what do your notes say about what you saw from the Cowboys defense and what you saw specifically in the second half of the game? Let's go there.
I mean, you mentioned, number one, I wanted to just piggyback really quickly off of what you said about the blocked kicks.
Yep.
Wanye was close a couple times.
He was.
He's gonna get another one. His speed off the line is different. I'll say that he's really twitchy, and so I wanted to highlight that I do think that he's gonna get another.
You're making the call. You're making the call.
Hoping that he gets another one. Now, from this defense, the 49ers play a lot of quick game. So we talked about it yesterday where I was surprised at the lack of pressure that they got. That plays into it as well as the fact that the 49ers get the ball out a lot. I believe that, not Mike McCarthy, Dan Quinn said, that they wanted to create longer third downs. He was hoping that they created more longer third downs. They had 14 third downs total, it sounds like, and they had 7 under 4 yards, where they had 5 wins and 2 losses. And then they had 7 of 4 yards or more, and they had 5 losses and 2 wins. So you kind of see the balance there, and they were hoping to get them into more third and short situations. With that being said, one of the biggest issues was there was a lot of leaky yardage. What we talked about on this podcast, that these guys needed to tackle and be sure tacklers, but the Niners just fought for just a couple more yards here and there, or a couple more yards after contact here and there. Really was also surprised that the Cowboys didn't disguise more in the secondary. They ended up playing Cowboys are a heavy man team. They ended up playing a lot more zone, and I thought that they would be a good mix of that, but that's not what happened. And so really, for me, it was just the fact they could not get them off the field on third down, whether it was for leaky yardage, a couple of downs before, or the penalties on the key third down situations where they had gotten them off the field. And I mean, just San Fran also too, they just do such a good job causing conflict, getting your guys to run into each other, rubs, stuff like that. And I think not disguising as much as the Cowboys could have done really put them in a play. They played them straight up almost. They were just like, yeah, can you beat it? And I'm like, no, Brock Purdy has had another year of being he's had more time at being a quarterback. You got to show him some different looks. Get your pass rush some time, make him come off that first read, and I wasn't sure we saw that consistently. There were a few highlighted guys, but other than that, it just wasn't a good day in the office. LVE, sad he got hurt because he was very sound against the run.
Yes, he was.
Early in that game. So,
he was.
Just those, to me, that was the big takeaway I took from it, and I was glad that Dan Quinn mentioned creating the longer third downs, because that's where that defense thrives.
Yeah, pin your ears back when it's third and long. And then Dan also mentioned that the one time they got him in a 3rd and 15, and they give up an explosive play. So
can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that because the defense has been good at taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
3 of the previous 4 games. But you're right about the leaky yards. When instead of holding them to a 2-yard run, when that becomes a 4 or 5-yard run.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a shorter second down, shorter third down. But the way Dan put it was, he says it's like paper cuts, just
Death
hit
by
again and
1,000
get
cuts.
death by 1,000
It's a
paper
great
cuts
Taylor
is
Swift
basically
song.
what it was. Yeah.
It's a great Taylor Swift song.
Oh, does that?
What you got?
All right, Jazzy, get ready. We had a Taylor Swift.
To be fair, that's what Dan said.
I know he said it.
Excuse me, Mike said death by 1,000 cuts, and in the press
It's
conference,
not a
I was
pun.
like,
Is that a lyric?
I was like,
But it's a Taylor Swift reference.
no,
so there
but
we go.
I thought in my head, I thought that's a Taylor Swift song when he said it, but I didn't say it until
that
we got
quarter
on the
is
podcast.
from Mike McCarthy.
Wait, so when do we put...
Jazzy
said
said I
she's
get a
gonna let her
pass
pass.
because I'm just quoting what Mike McCarthy said, so it does not count.
Wait, so since when do we put coins in the jar for Taylor Swift songs?
You haven't gotten.
Okay.
You're safe at this point.
Oh, actually, I got a tweet about you. What yours is going to be?
Wait, what?
Yeah, we got a tweet of when we put a quarter in for you, and we'll talk about it after the show. 'cause
Oh, I
it's
synced
fun.
it.
Yeah.
I synced it.
We got
What'd
a
I
tweet
do?
about it. Everybody, we have our own things that we have to put in there. Yep.
Sorry.
Know what I'm saying?
Yep.
No, I don't know what you're saying.
Ain't that the saying?
Yeah. Anytime you say, you know what I'm saying. You have
You
to
say
put
that.
I say that a lot.
Not a lot, but you say it,
I
and
don't know.
that's how
That's
people
just
go.
the tweet
That's
we
your
got.
saying.
But it's all either for a Christmas fund or
Something
for
fun.
charity.
For
So
a good cause.
we'll decide later, or for
for
Jazzy's
Jazzy's
birthday.
Yeah.
We're gonna be broke. It's all right.
You know what? For me
the
alone,
question-
you're gonna be broke from the puns. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, but we got questions.
We
Yeah,
got,
we got a good
question.
question,
Speaking of
yes.
Twitter, let's end this episode with a good question that we got here on Twitter. I tweeted to send us your questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them. We will save them throughout the week, though. Jamie wants to know, he said, good evening from the UK. Does last week's show where the Cowboys really are or aren't likely to challenge the likes of the Eagles and 49ers in the NFC? Or do you think it was just a bad day in the office and we don't see that kind of performance again this season? Honest opinions here based on that question.
No. You going first, Nicole? Who's going first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Well, let me say I hope it doesn't happen again. I hope that it was a bad day in the office and it was just kind of like, okay, like the Cardinals game, like, let's just throw that away. Let's just hope that was that. But I think that now, since you've gotten exposed as an offense, you've been relying and playing behind your defense all season long. Now, I feel like you've got to step up. And I'm hoping that, like I said, that was just a bad day in the office. Now this team has had time. You've got extra days. Now you've got to step up because, again, like I said yesterday, your schedule does not get any easier. So, I mean, no, I hope. I'm not going to say that it might not happen. But I definitely certainly hope it does not happen again.
I'll go to what Bill Parcells used to say. You are what your record says you are. This is a 3-2 team. And there's no shame in losing to a 49ers team, which proved itself on game day Sunday to be the superior team. But the fact that the defense, who, by Mike McCarthy's admission, is the strength of the team, win 2 out of 3 games, and they're coming saying, that's not us. That's not good. This team is not good enough. If they do not play complementary football, this team is not good enough for one phase to carry all 3. To this point, can that change, Jamie, moving forward? We hope so. We still haven't seen this offense at full strength or at, full throttle. And it's been 5 games, okay? There's no more excuses moving forward. You've got your 5 offensive linemen. You can't use that as an excuse anymore. We're not at full strength along the offensive line. Dak needs to play better. He's the first to say that.
Same.
We need to get the ball to CD more. Yeah, but we also need to get it to Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, and to
Jake
the tight
Ferguson.
ends, and Jake Ferguson, and Peyton Hendershot needs to get back and healthy and get involved. So ball distribution is going to be the thing. And it's all about matchup, guys. Don't get worried that CD was targeted 8 times this time and Michael only twice. It's going to depend week to week, okay? So don't get caught up in the numbers week to week. That's going to vary, but you are what your record says you are, and right now they're not equal to the 49ers, and hopefully we get a chance to play them again in January.
I'm going to answer the question by saying that I think both sides of the ball got to look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves what they want to be. And that's, like, to me, guess coaches included, just because it's not working. It's a players, and it's all the way around. So to me, if they don't make changes internally within themselves, their decision making, some of their however they decide to do things, then yeah, this is what they're gonna be. But you've seen in this last few games, like, there has to be changes made. With your ideals and how you decide to go about, continue to push this team, because clearly the offensive side of the ball, they're struggling with some certain things, but defensively as well, what is your bread and butter? Like, how are you guys going to go forward? And if your bread and butter is not working anymore, what changes can you make to go ahead and evolve? Because it might just be time for that. Like, it might just be time to evolve in different ways. So if they stay like this and they don't change anything, but they got to make some decisions amongst each other to get better.
And by the way, Leighton Vander Esch is going to miss some time.
Yeah. Which is huge.
Several weeks at least, a handful of games. So at least, hopefully he'll be back. But we don't know how long.
Yeah, we don't know, and we can get in this discussion tomorrow, but if you remember how the run defense looked last season and when the conversation came up, it's when he had that neck stinger and he was not available. So
That's right.
We'll get into that. Here's what I think about that question. I think that when you lose to a 49ers team who is arguably the best in the NFL right now, doesn't necessarily define you. What defines you is how you bounce back from this. Because like you said, Christy, there's nothing left that you can say is getting in your way anymore. Can't be emotional for this next game. You can't overhype it. You can't get too in your head about it. It's either you do it or you don't. You execute or you don't. You have a game plan. It's not working. You adjust it or you don't. And that's what's going to define the team. You're only 5 weeks in. Your team is 3-2. Other 3-2 teams include the Bills, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Jags, the Colts. You can keep going down this list. And the Saints. 3-2 is not a horrible record. At the end of the day, you're still vying for a playoff run at this point.
Yeah.
You're still talking about the playoffs in this conversation because you have the talent on this team. But how you decide to execute going forward, that defines this football team.
Absolutely.
It's not what happened on Sunday night, and it's not anything that's happened these last 5 weeks. It's what you learn from it, what you take away from it, and what you decide to execute on going forward. So,
Better pivot.
yeah. Yep. Well, ladies, our time has come to an end. We went a little bit over today, but all in good stuff here. Tomorrow we're going to turn the page officially. We're going to start talking all things Chargers for your Monday night football game. So you get a Sunday to kind of rest and get ready for Monday night, but we're going to give you all the previews like we normally do in a normal week, Wednesday and Thursday as well. So with that being said, we'll be back here tomorrow. Please take care of yourself. It is World Mental Health Day, so please make sure to take care of yourself. Ask for help if you need it. You are important. You are very loved, and I'm so glad that we could do this podcast to remind you of that every day. Have a great rest of your day. For Christy, Nicole, Aisha, and Jess, we appreciate the heck out of you. Go be amazing. This has been Girls Talk Boys Talk presented by Jigsaw, and we'll see you tomorrow.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!